right. Hi, everybody. I always say it's so weird when we have these virtual meetings because it's never like you go into a conference room and you wave at everyone in the conference room. It's always like, hi. So I'm Kristin Glandon. Designs, pretty obvious why I named it that. Super creative on naming. My necklace is bugging me. So I'm a landscape architect. I've been a landscape architect for over 20 years. My background is that I worked for the same firm for 18 years. We did a mix of commercial and public projects. We did some high-end residential, including this project. This is a project I did while at that firm. About a year and a half ago, or just over a year ago, I decided to go out on my own and created KG Designs, primarily landscape architecture, but also some interior design, just because that's a passion of mine. So I always call myself a landscape architect and a wannabe interior designer, even though I can do interior design and I love it. So today I thought I would talk about, when I was talking with Joni, we were talking about sort of this summer that we're in right now that is so different than any other summer we've ever experienced. And the importance of home. It has become, like, I keep telling everyone I'm busier than I've ever been in my life, because so many people are at home and realizing that they can make some changes and want to make some changes to live, because we're now, a lot of us living and working and doing everything. We're socializing, our whole lives are at home, we're not going out to other places. So I think it's the idea of home and the idea of being here has become even more important. And one of the things that I often get asked about whenever I put on Instagram like questions, people are constantly like, what do I do to make my house feel like a retreat? You know, basically, how can I create a space in my home that at the end of the workday, when you're working from home, you have a space to go to? So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the simple ways that you can do it. I mean, this isn't stuff that's going to cost a whole bunch of money, and it's not stuff that you have to hire a contractor for. That's the stuff you hire me for. But this is stuff more that, you know, everyone can do. So, so they may seem a little bit simple and common sense, but I think that sometimes we all need to be hit over the head with common sense sometimes. So I'm totally okay with talking about some of this stuff. So I'll go into my presentation now. It's so weird that people can't talk back to me. So, and yeah, if you have questions, just put them in the chat and Joni will ask me. So, and then at the end of this, I'm gonna ask questions as well, or answer questions. So, so this is a project I worked on. I mean, God, it's been like 7 years now since we worked on this project, and it's a backyard in Seattle. And I chose this because it has a lot of the elements I wanted to talk about. This is obviously really high-end, expensive, and beautiful garden. The homeowner just had taste for days, and it was really fun designing this. So this shows you, you know, the lounge space, the dining space. It has the overhead. It has what I call the walls, so the fence and the screen. It has the greenery. You know, it sort of has all of the elements that go into creating what feels like an outdoor room or an outdoor retreat. And so that's why I chose this photo. And then a lot of the other photos are actually going to be from other designers, but they just kind of highlight what I'm talking about. So we're going to get into it. Go to my next slide. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so what are the design elements, right, to go into creating sort of an outdoor room? And when I say outdoor retreat, I'm really talking about creating a room that you can go out to that just feels a little bit different and a little bit more special than your everyday spaces. So when we talk about the design elements of an outdoor room, they're basically the same as an indoor room, right? You've got the hardscape, what we designers call hardscape. That's the pavers and the concrete, and I'll get into that. The fences and the screens, or the walls, pergolas or umbrellas, depending on if you want to build something, a structure, or just buy something. Furniture, of course, and then the key thing is atmosphere. That's the thing that takes it up a notch and takes it into like the whole retreat versus just a patio. So, oh, I haven't done PowerPoint forever, so forgetting. Okay, hardscape, floor. So there's a million different ways that you can do hardscape. Of course, concrete, right? Maybe you have a deck, maybe you have a patio that is pavers, you know, brick or concrete or cobblestone. You can do DG or crushed rock. It doesn't have to be like this picture is decomposed granite. I mean, you can do gravel. It doesn't have to be something where you go and purchase those pavers and stuff. If that's too hard for you to install, you can also do gravel. Flagstone, you can have gravel joints, you can have green joints. There's lots of different ways to create like the hardscape, the area that you would use to put all of your furniture on or to put, like create this room. And when we talk about sizes, for a dining space, like 10 feet is really minimal. That's the very smallest you want. So it really needs to be more like 12 or 14 feet. And for a lounging area, you know, like a living room sort of setup, it needs to be a little bit bigger. So those are just some easy sizes for you guys. And this is just I like this example because this shows you an overhead structure, the trees, the hardscape, which is just the gravel, and then the way that they've put two pieces of furniture basically and created almost two separate rooms. It's really simple, but this is also high end, but it's a simple way to create a space. So I'm going to talk about hardscape. Now I'm going to go into the next, if I can get, there we go, getting my mouse. Fences and screens, right? So those are the walls. And this totally depends on where you live. So if you have a small sort of urban backyard, you're going to probably want screens. And those can be, of course, fences, walls, if you have a stone wall or a gabion wall or a concrete wall. You can do architectural screens, right? You can have cut out metal, you could have wood. And screens are something that basically are fences that don't fence like an entire property. You could just have like an area, like a 10-foot screen or a 12-foot screen, something that screens a view that you don't want or gives you some privacy from your neighbors, but then allows you to have a view to where you're trying to get to. Hedges, of course, that's the easiest way, right? You plant a hedge, and there's a million different hedges. Oh, there's Todd. Hi, sweetie. Sorry. He's trying to figure out what I'm doing. And then planters. So if you have an area where maybe it's bad soil or there's a bunch of stuff off to the side and you don't want to dig into it or whatever, you can always use planters and then put plants inside of those to create your own screen. Whenever I'm thinking about where we're going to be placing the walls, we're talking about views. Do you want to screen views? Do you want to frame views? Is there somewhere that you love to look at that's gorgeous, and then there's areas that you don't want to? So that's one of the things you have to be thinking about when you're thinking about where to place these, is what you want to be looking at and what you're going to be seeing when you're looking at the views. So I'm moving my mouse again. Okay, the ceiling. So the ceiling doesn't have to be there in an outdoor room. We're in an outdoor room, it could just be the sky. But if you do want something that comes down and makes you feel a little more, what we call in the designer world, the pedestrian scale, what makes it feel not so just big and out there, and you want something that comes down and makes you feel a little more safe. You can always do a pergola, right? An arbor. If you don't want to spend the money or build something permanent, you could do, of course, just a sun umbrella. I mean, just do a canopy umbrella that comes over. And then, of course, a tree canopy, one of my favorites. You know, this again shows that same thing of having a tree canopy and, you know, sitting out underneath the trees. So you still feel like you're open into the sky without an architectural element, but you have that sort of enclosed and safe feeling. So that's the ceiling. And then outdoor furniture. This is my own house that most of you guys have seen. So outdoor furniture is my favorite because I feel it's so simple. But it's something I think that sometimes we need to be reminded. This is my common sense one that I was talking about, is outdoor furniture is furniture. So there's no reason that you have to go and buy something at Home Depot that's metal and glass and like looks like it's supposed to be sitting outside. There's so much outdoor furniture out there that you can use and buy, and that looks just like you would have it inside. So these are some of my favorite places to buy in all ends of the spectrum of money. If you don't want to do like custom furniture, go to that sort of next level. But there's so many options for dining and for lounge, and then all the materials. And again, this depends on where you live, of course. And if you have a bunch of rain, or if it gets too super hot there, or what material is going to work the best. But I mean, there's all these composite materials that do great outside. So there's just all these options. And I just tell everyone, like, put something outside that you would also have inside, and have it relate to each other. You know, like, do the same colors, do the same kind of pillows, like have everything look like it's the same. That's the best way that you can do that indoor outdoor. When you walk from your inside of your house, you shouldn't walk outside and suddenly the furniture is different or the pillows are different, and it's a totally different aesthetic. It should really match. And then because you're walking from interior, which are truly walls, to exterior, which you're going to have greenery, that's the difference. So keep all of the furniture and the items that you purchase the same as what you would have inside. So that's my spiel on that. Okay, so my last one, again, I'm doing a quick presentation because I want to talk to you guys, but is atmosphere. So this is the thing that takes it to the idea of a retreat, right? So if you have an area, a patio or a deck, an outdoor space, and you have that hardscape already, you've now decided, okay, I want to do some sort of screening, that makes sense. And I want to do some outdoor furniture that relates to what I have inside. But now what takes it to that retreat? So an easy way, of course, is accessories, right? The same thing we do inside. What takes a house to a home? It's the accessories. It's the things we bring in that are personal. So you do the same thing outside, you know, bring out the pillows and bring out throw blankets and outdoor rugs. And if your space, if it's an older patio and the concrete's gross, put a rug out. Bring out some potted plants, bring out life, and accessories. You know, I put stuff on my walls outside, you know, hang stuff on the walls, act like it's an indoor space. And again, use the same colors and textures as you do on the inside as the outside. And then when you think about the vibe or the atmosphere, think about where you love to go for a retreat, right? So if the idea is that we're all at home right now and we want to feel like we're going to our favorite place, what is your favorite place? So is it a mountain lodge? Is it, you know, being on a hammock by the beach? And what is it? So if it is a mountain lodge, or say it's a beachside hammock, right? So put a hammock outside. Bring out colors that remind you of the beach, the blues and the tans, and make it feel a little bit like it feels like when you're on vacation. And then of course, string lights, right? It's the easiest way to do it. It takes everything up a notch. So I'll string light everything. Every single design I do is like, there's the string lights, and bring out music. And water, that I realize now seems weird, but a water feature, right? So especially if you live in an area where you have a lot of ambient noise or you have noise around you, a simple little bubbler water feature just makes a huge difference in wine, obviously. So I'm going to go to my next page. Yeah, that's it. So
of course you have to have wine in that beautiful setting. Or a little Prosecco, absolutely. So cheers. So a couple of questions, and then I encourage you to put other questions in the chat as well. So someone was asking, where do you find, you know, the best inspiration for homes, indoor and outdoor? Where do you go?
Oh, Instagram. Actually, I use Pinterest, but the way that Pinterest works, for some reason with my brain, I don't love it. It's not the best. So what I often do is just searching through Instagram, right? Searching through hashtags, looking for stuff. And then if I find a design or an image of something that I love, I then go to their website and then look at the website. So it's a lot of the way that I look at it is through that. I do use Houzz for some inspiration too. That's a really easy one. There's good.
And that's spelled for people.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Houzz easy.
Yeah, and it has you know, all of these websites, of course, are for profit, so there's a lot of ads that go with them. So sometimes that gets in the way. So that's again why I go back to Instagram, because it's easier way to. It's so image heavy.
So Kristin, another question was, here in the Pacific Northwest, what are some trees that would work well to help create a living space outside or a dining space? Like, what kind of trees would you recommend?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a million different trees, right? So if you have a smaller space and you want to go with like a patio tree, I love styrax, so styrax japonica. I love katsuras. There's a
I love katsuras.
Yeah, I love them. And there's a million Japanese maples. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Japanese maple. So it totally, you know, you can have Japanese maples that are 100 feet tall. You can have them that are, you know, 2 feet tall. So it depends on the height and the scale that you want. But in the Pacific Northwest, you can never go wrong with the Japanese maple. And I mean, God, there's so many trees. Dogwoods, of course. I don't do cherry trees in the Northwest very much because we get too much moisture and they start to die out. So, but yeah, those are some of the ones that I would use.
So someone said that they have a beautiful view and it gets super hot and they don't want to block the view. So it's probably maybe east or west facing. So what would you do to help create some shade and less impact without blocking the view?
Yeah, so I mean, that goes back to, again, if you do a pergola or if you do some sort of overhead space, you make sure that the view, you know, if you're looking out this way, then you've just got something sort of behind you where you've got the shade. And then honestly, you know, you can always go back to an umbrella, right? Like, and sit in the shade in that way. But I understand, like, you don't want to plant huge trees because you don't want to be blocking the view. So then I always look at architectural elements, because you can create something that gives you shade, but has, I mean, the post doesn't have to be huge. So you can create something, especially if you use steel, that is a smaller post and is not obtrusive to your view, but still gives you some sort of shade.
Great. So this is actually a really good question. It's like, so this Sarah has a very large space and she wants to create outdoor areas, but her space is so large, she doesn't want to do it all at once. So how would you look at creating a space economically, Kristin?
Yeah, so that is a question I get all the time. And because of where I live too, I mean, I have, you know, 4.5 acres. I can't afford to landscape 4.5 acres. Like, yeah, right. So what I tell everyone is, especially because it's what I do for a living, but have a landscape designer help you create a master plan. And if you don't, you know, if you can't afford a landscape designer, then create a master plan, basically. And even if it's bubbles, like, okay, at someday I want to do a pool over here. Or someday I know I want to do a pickleball court, or, you know, whatever it is, and a garden, and come up. So we call it a program, but come up with the program elements that you want to incorporate at some time. And then if you have, you know, a site plan, or if you know your areas, think of, okay, I want these 5 things. Eventually I want to have all 5 things. Right now I can afford like 0.5 of those things. So figure out where you want those things to go, sort of, and then start building out basically from your house out. The biggest thing you have to look for is not to build something that then makes it harder for you to build that 5th thing later. So knowing what you're going to do, is having that master plan is key, because it saves you from so many things later on.
That's such a great idea. And, you know, really to hire a landscape architect or designer is so important, because it actually will reduce costs in the long term when you're doing that type of planning.
Absolutely. No, it really will. And I mean, for us too, just showing where your pathways are going to be, because if you know where your paths are going to be, you can sleeve underneath them when they're built, so that you can have irrigation, or you can have power or whatever you're going to need further out, you don't have to rip that up later. So knowing where you're going to go and having that master plan, and then we call them phasing plans. So create a master plan, and then I've done phasing plans where you have 5 phases, but figuring out what your budget is and what is doable, and then starting that as the first phase and then phasing in the other stuff.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So another question from Judy, Kristin, is in a nice sunny area, what are your favorite flowers to group together?
Okay, so nice sunny area. So I have to do Northwest, right? Because if you're somewhere else, I won't know.
So the Pacific Northwest, what are those flowers?
So in a hot, sunny area, you know, you think sort of that, I want to say Mediterranean, but they're not really Mediterranean, but roses, lavenders, ornamental grasses. So Russian sage. My favorite ornamental grasses are Pennisetum Carly Rose or Pennisetum Little Bunny, Calamagrostis, Carl Forrester. I know I'm talking, but those are great ones. Miscanthus is always gorgeous. So doing grasses and then interspersing them with the flowers. So again, anyone who follows me knows that I love drift roses. They're my favorite shrub roses because they just last all summer long and they rebloom and they're super easy. You don't have to prune them or do anything to them. I'm all about plants you don't have to do anything to. And then any of the lavender, I don't like to do lavender that much because it is more maintenance. You have to come in and trim it all the time. So instead of doing lavender, I like to use Russian sage or catmint or something that gives you that same aesthetic, but doesn't have all of the pruning that lavender does.
And then what are some good flowering drought tolerant plants?
Yeah, well,
great question.
all of those that I just said, well, not the grasses, but so in terms of the drought tolerant, like, okay, here's my tip too. I'm just going to tell you guys my tip. If you have like, what am I going to do? Go to Monrovia.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
Monrovia
has the best website for putting in and saying, okay, I want full sun. I'm in this zone. I want it to do this, 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 and it will just give you that list of plants. So if I'm not telling you what you guys are looking for, go to Monrovia too. But so drought tolerant are going to be the sun loving plants again, the roses and I'm going back to the same ones I was just talking about, but those are ones that do really well in drought tolerant. So if you're looking for something that's full sun, is going to be the best for something that's drought tolerant too.
Terrific. So Mohammed has a question. What kind of accessories are suitable for tropical country? Do you have some suggestions?
Oh, so in terms of, let's see, that's a good question. I don't know because I don't live in a tropical.
Mohammed, could you tell us where you're from? Just put it in the chat. Maybe that would help too. I thought that might stump you, but I mean,
yeah.
depending on where.
I mean, thinking about places when I have traveled, right, and gone to tropical areas, it's all the same sort of stuff in terms of accessories, right? There's a lot of natural materials and jute and wicker, and I'm thinking of these natural materials that do well out there. I mean, I wouldn't think that sitting on metal feels good out there, so you want something that's a natural material. And bringing out anything that's outdoor rated that can handle the moisture, right? So if you have outdoor rated pillows and outdoor rated rugs, so that they can handle the moisture and the heat. But it seems to me like it would be the same sort of thing that maybe we in this area have a little bit more, you know, we have all the same moisture, but we also have to then deal with the cold. So we want to go with more metal. You don't have to do that down there. So I guess that would be my
okay. Terrific. Mohammed, thanks for that question. Betsy has a question about gaming and activities outside. Is there something you'd recommend that easily fits into a growing environment that can also be maintained?
So say that again. I'm sorry, I missed it.
So the question is, if I want to create an activity gaming area, is there something you'd recommend that easily fits into a growing environment that can be easily maintained? Are you thinking, Betsy, like croquet or something like that? That's what I thought of when I saw the question. Yes, she said croquet.
Okay, so I guess so. Like creating an area that you want to go out and like play in the grass, kind of stuff. I guess is what I'm hearing.
Play in the grass and, you know, set up a croquet set. Is there something that you would recommend? Well, Betsy, could you maybe, or any other kinds of games outside?
Yeah, so I mean, I've designed a lot of bocce courts, frankly. That's always a fun one. And they're beautiful. So they're fairly easy to maintain. And if you have the space, they're a great one. So I've designed plenty of bocce ball courts. I always like to create just a large, like flat area that you can create lawn games, right? Where you can put out a pickleball net, or you can put out a volleyball net, and have an area that's this flat green space. Of course, sport courts, design lots of sport courts. In the Pacific Northwest, we don't do as many pools, but
Right. For obvious reasons.
the country can actually do pools. Just not something we do here. And but in terms of that, I mean, it's really creating a flat green space. You just need something that you can go out and then create whatever onto. It's sort of that bonus room where you just put anything onto and then bring out. I mean, if you don't have a garage, it's always great, you know, get a shed, get something where you put your outdoor games into, and then you can go back and forth between them, have it easily accessible. So.
Terrific. Well, Kristin, that is a half an hour. It went so quickly. I can't believe how fast it went. Thank you so much. Thank you also for all of the questions from our audience today. It's so nice to have you join us on this Friday morning, part of our Summer of Self-Love series, and it will continue through the rest of the month. We have some 3 more weeks of the Summer of Self-Love. We have the Art of Breathing coming up, how to spend like it matters with intention of where your money is going. And then also we have a woman who will be speaking. She owns the fermentation farm in LA, and she's going to be talking about healthy gut equals healthy living. And so that's something to join us for. I'm super interested in that. Yeah. Being healthy is very important. Monica and I are also going to be doing a year-long solstice intention workshop, and talk about a crazy year for 2020. We want to really set our intentions for 2021 moving forward, so join us for that. There's more information on our website at rebel11.com. We also have Pilates and also yoga on Sunday morning. The Pilates is several times during the week, so join us for that. If you have further questions, I'll put my email in below, and you can shoot me an email. And Kristin, thank you so much. You are so inspiring, and I want to take all of these tips and go create them in my own backyard. So thank you for joining us. Check Kristin out on her website and also on Instagram. I put those in the chat as well. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. This is so fun. Thank you. All right, I don't know how to get out.
Have a great day. Bye, guys.